This person is asking if my mother and I ever reconciled or spoke to each other after I ran away from her home at the age of 13. Yeah, a couple times. A couple times. We we tried reconciling once when my grandparents were very ill. It was a brief stint. We tried reconciling again shortly after I had gotten off the road. I had spent a few years traveling. And then when I settled down, we tried reconciling again. That's when I met Renee. And things did not work out well. My mother and my brother did not care for Renee. And because we had such a tenuous relationship at best to begin with, it escalated very quickly, blew up very quickly, and resulted in that second attempt at reconciliation falling apart. Then we tried reconciling again after she interjected in our life. So she worked at the same company where my mother-in-law worked, and so they knew each other. And Renee and I were off having kids, right? We had two girls. We had Maggie and Lily, and Magnolia and Lily, and my mother-in-law had pictures of her grandchildren at her desk, and so my mother, because we had no contact with one another, would go over to my mother-in-law's desk and ask questions about the girls and get information about the girls the best she could and see pictures of the girls. And then my grandfather on my father's side died. And I called my mother to let my brother know, because my brother and I haven't spoken to each other, at this point in time, we haven't spoken to each other in 26 years, 27 years. He's my only blood sibling. Anyway, I called to say, hey, I know he doesn't really give a fuck, but don't want to be the person that didn't tell you. So please tell Michael his grandfather died. She said, I will. And then she said, any chance I get to see my granddaughters. And after the childhood I had and the few failed attempts at reconciliation, initially I thought no, but then I thought maybe she's changed. And so we reconciled again. And we would see her or talk to her once a month. And then my brother had his first child. My brother has 3 daughters now. He had his first child. And we went from seeing or hearing from my mother, seeing my mother or hearing from my mother once a month to once every month and a half to 2 months. It started to do what I thought it was going to do, because he was the golden child. I'm the outcast. She doesn't really give a fuck about me. She just wanted to be a grandmother. And I'm the only one that provided her grandchildren up until that point. Now the golden child was producing grandchildren. So we started seeing her less and less. Then my brother had his second child. And it went from every month and a half to 2 months to every 2 to 3 months after he had his second child. Then we had our third child, our son Tommy. And my mother came to the hospital the day of the birth, after my wife had given birth to him. She came to see him. My aunt and uncle drove her. She couldn't even be bothered to come by herself. They stayed a couple hours, and they left. That was December 1st. My brother, my son's birthday is tomorrow. He turns 13 tomorrow. So 13 years ago tomorrow, she showed up for a couple hours and then disappeared. My aunt and uncle showed up to the house a couple of weeks later, brought by a casserole or a dish or something, wanted to see the baby. Mom didn't. We didn't see Mom again until after the New Year. Then my son had his third daughter. And my mom took a week off of work and spent it with her daughter-in-law and new granddaughter. Every day, all day. We got an hour or two the day of the birth. My brother got an entire week off of work. And then we went from seeing or hearing from my mom every 2 to 3 months to every 5 to 6 months. So I said to my wife, I said to Renee, stop inviting her. Stop reaching out. Just see what happens. If you stop reaching out, she'll stop reaching out. And that's exactly what happened. she used my kids to be a grandmother just long enough to buy her enough time until my brother started having kids. And then she had no use for my kids, just like she had no use for me. So, at the time of that wretched bitch's passing, we were not in each other's lives. I had to get a call from my aunt letting me know that her sister died. And I said, okay. I didn't go to that funeral. There was no reason for me to go to that funeral. And as I've stated before, she died alone in her house, presumably overnight while in bed. If I showed you the images of her house and the bedroom specifically where she passed away, you would probably throw up. Literal trash piled. Like she would bring home fast food, eat her fast food, drink her drink, and throw it in a trash pile. On both sides of the bed, higher than the nightstands. Trash. In the bathroom, in that room, in one other room. Just shit piling up, right? Stained mattress, no sheets on the mattress, an ashtray, a phone charger. And that's where they found her. And hopefully, when whatever it was that finally came to take her, whatever medical attack that finally came to take her, woke her up in the middle of the night, and she reached out for somebody because she knew something was happening to her physically. She knew that she was probably seizing up at that moment, and she reached out for somebody in the darkness of night, and all she could grasp was the trash that was next to her bed. I hope that fucking cunt felt every ounce of fear I ever felt as she stood over me with a belt while I cowered in the corner of my bedroom. I hope her last moment on this planet was one where she was awash with fear. And then the realization hits her that nobody was going to help her, that there was nobody there to help her. Just like I knew there was nobody there to help me. If there is a God, hopefully he made that her last moment. So yeah, we did try to reconcile a few times. Never worked. We were never meant to be in each other's lives.